to the show that never ends. We're so glad you could attend. Come inside, come inside.
Hello one, hello all. Welcome to this May 6th edition of Show Business. I am still CP.
Way over here, Deadly Desert, Fuego from the horror show and Infotainment.
And I'm Lindsey of my 2 cents of nonsense. It feels good to be on the air. I even forgot our order there for a second. You guys notice that little pause?
And hey, I'm Chauncey K. Robinson, the Twisted Woman, CKR.
Hey. See, we still got the regular flow, except somebody was watching us in the back. You hear who? Somebody has their computer on. Is that you, Lindsey?
No, I muted me.
What? I mean, my computer is on. Should it not be on? Okay, bye guys.
No, I hear us in the background like faintly. All right, never mind. So it's been a while. So since the quarantine, we've been kind of taking a one-on, one-off type approach. And I don't know what you guys want to approach first, because it's basically news that we can. Oh, you know what? Hold on. I have statistics. So I have numbers or standings, not numbers, to report as of April 25th. The week ending April 25th, the top 10 VOD movies. Number 1 was Bad Boys for Life. Number 2, Star Wars Rise of Skywalker. Number 3, The Gentleman. Number 4, Sonic. Number 5, Jumanji. Number 6, Doolittle. Number 7, Call of the Wild.
Eddie Murphy's? Or,
I love your hope, though, Chauncey.
What am I up to? Number 8, Underwater. Number 9 is 1917. And number 10 is Birds of Prey. And we do have some physical media stats. Star Wars has already pulled in 19 million. Jumanji has already pulled in 23 million. And 1917 has already pulled in 10 million. Also, there is the report that Trolls 2, the trolling, what is this? What is the subtitle to Trolls?
World
Tour, that's it. Trolls World Tour, it made 86 million in 3 days, but they won't tell us anything else from its VOD premiere, which caused a flutter.
I was about to say that that's all it took. I thought it would be more than that. That's all it took to get someone upset.
Well,
okay.
I thought it was like 100 something.
It might have been. I remember. I know the first one made 40. I think that's what it was. I knew it was at least double of the first one, and the first one did 40 in the theaters. And there is no way this movie was making 80 plus million this year. So Universal's like, holy shit, we got it.
Well, all I remember for the first Trolls is that song. Like, is there a song attached to this new one? Like, I haven't seen anything in the marketing or anything like half as attention grabbing or anything.
No.
It was all.
People are sick of each other, and kids will be quiet for 90 minutes. I think that's what it was. Oh, I can go look at my emails and have Junior shut up here. Let me rent Trolls and then whatever.
Boy, we were just talking off air. Like, Tiger King probably would not have been what it was if we weren't all trapped inside with nothing to do except watch Tiger King.
Not a chance. Not a chance.
Well, there. I think that it would have been a big deal, not the deal that it was, because Netflix tends to have at least one of those a year. Like
That's true.
Evil Genius last year, it was pretty hard to not binge. The Making a Murderer, that was ridiculous. How they could pull 10 hours out of that. But yeah, it was a freak show, and it's caused a movie. And who else to play the Tiger King himself but Nicolas Cage?
I know some people were pulling for David Spade though.
Oh, because Joe Dirt.
Yeah.
Oh, I actually hadn't heard that. That's amazing, though. Kind of live in that timeline.
Well, how do we feel? How do we feel about A, the fact that there's going to be a movie based on this, and B, that it's Nicolas Cage? I'll start with you, Chauncey, because I know you're talking about his lack of protagonist features right before we started.
Yeah, well,
sorry, go ahead.
Well, I don't know. I don't know, because the thing is, I think the great thing about Tiger King is the fact that it's what draws people in is that it's so like unbelievable, the things that were happening, but it's believable because it actually happened. And I think it's such the grab for it that it's kind of weird to then put it in, real time of REL, of this, like, it's like, yeah, are you just going to kind of mimic what we've already seen? How great is that going to be? I mean, I think it's smart that they got Nicolas Cage to do it, because that's just going to draw people in to see how he's going to play it. So you needed that kind of gimmick of casting, because I just don't know, how much more outlandish you can be versus the way it actually was.
Right.
Like everything that is there already. And it's like, okay, are we just going to watch a fictionalized version of what we can already see in real time? And also, and like, what I was saying before we came on air was, the thing is, I don't like Joe Exotic himself,
No, he's a bear person.
I really enjoyed Tiger King, but it was like a train wreck, how you can't turn away. So you watch because it's intriguing, but it's not, I worry that he's being somewhat seen as this kind of, in relation to Carol Baskin, that damn Carol Baskin, being seen as like some sort of like hero. And I'm like, none of the people in that docuseries are good people, except the staff, except the underpaid, overworked staff. Those are the only people in that, some of them, that are the ones who, and the cats, so I worry that if Nicolas Cage is playing it, that there's going to be a little bit too much maybe sympathy for Joe Exotic. I'm like, does he deserve that? No. So that's my only worry about it. I'm still going to watch it, but that's my only worry about it.
Well, there's got to be the curiosity as to how cagey he's actually going to get, because, I mean, he's an Oscar winner leaving Las Vegas, but yet he's become more notorious in the last, decade or so for these just bonkers off-the-walls performances and stuff. And so, I don't know. I mean, he still is very, very talented at the end of the day, but it's, for a show about caged animals, Nicolas Cage, it's gimmicky as all hell. So I still have piqued curiosity, though, so.
Yeah, I've always really liked his movie Lord of War, and especially how
I own that movie. Ethan Hawke.
Thank God! I say that movie all the time, and no one's seen it.
I have.
Well, we're gonna have a watch party of Lord of War tonight after this. I'll stay away from spoilers, but he's playing a very opportunistic guy who's like, oh, I'll just sell all these weapons and at the end of the movie you're kind of like, wait, he's kind of a bad dude, but he's Nicolas Cage, so he's got that kind of likable charisma about him. So I wonder if it's going to be something like that, where it's like you're sucked in by who he is, but as you're like, this is such a horrible person.
Well, people,
at least that's what I hope for.
People can be charismatic and not be good. I mean, I mean, they said that about Ted Bundy, which apparently
I don't see it. I didn't see it.
Apparently he was a silver-tongued devil or whatever. I've heard that before about people that aren't
good looking, but
yeah. Oh yeah, good. Yeah, but I didn't mean good looking, but I mean that was obvious.
CP and Bundy sitting in a tree.
But yeah, charisma can go. It doesn't necessarily mean good in some instances.
Oh yeah, natural born killers,
Oh,
man.
yeah.
I mean, come
Yep.
on.
Yep.
You know?
Well, I mean, what's the Tarantino vampire movie, but directed by Rodriguez?
My
From
favorite
Dusk Till
vampire
Dawn?
movie, From Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah, those are horrible people, or at least what's his name is George Clooney,
Oh, yeah.
but he, he's
He
putting
becomes an
guns in people's
anti-hero.
mouths and. Sorry, what's that for you?
Oh no! Well, he becomes an anti-hero, and that's the tone for this is really going to be big. Is how what sort of tone do they really go? Is it going to be more serious, black comedy sort of thing, or is it going to be just slapstick, silly, stupid? Who knows? So
Is it going to be actual tigers on set, or is it going to be people a la Cats, just kind of wandering around pretending to be tigers with
I'd
CG on them?
appreciate that.
they're going to be
Right.
all CGI animals. It's going to be like Doolittle, which I watched the other day, and Doolittle. My God,
Good.
I was
Oh, they were
bored. Red
CGI.
Bob. Yeah,
They were
at
all
least
CGI.
I think they all were. They sure looked it. So.
The dragon was real, funnily enough, but all the other animals were CGI.
Pete has a pretty good point. Wolf of Wall Street was a blast and about shitty people and
Yeah.
based off of real
Yeah.
life. Yeah, yeah. There's that. And I don't know if any of you have seen Bernie with Jack Black.
Oh, where he's the guy who works at the funeral
yeah,
home, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never seen it actually.
Oh, well, then I won't spoil it. I was about to lean right into the ending. Yeah, he's for all intents and purposes, he's the hero of the movie, the protagonist. But he's not a good person. Things happen, and I'll just drive away from that one.
Well,
Go ahead.
It's the thing, but that's the fine line with the anti-hero, right? It's like even with Wolf of Wall Street, which is a fave of mine. It's one of those things where he's despicable, but he doesn't have some sort of there's no real villain in that one to him, right? It's like the government's after him, maybe it's this whole thing of throwing off society. Even people could say, it's this thing with that weirdness with Joker, right? In some regards, or some people are like, Joker, he's such a great guy because he gets it, but he's twisted, versus, yeah, he's shitty, but he's crappy to look at, but he's interesting to
The fuck
watch.
are you apologizing for?
I don't know. YouTube's been weird with stuff.
No,
I don't want.
No, roll it out. Especially
Yeah,
for
we're-
shit. Come on.
I know. So it's like this weirdness of, I guess, maybe because I've been seeing it online, people having Joe Exotic birthday cakes and stuff like that. And I'm just like, do they see him as a hero, or is it just kind of the joke, And I think if the script is right, it can definitely be just like he is, where you can't help but watch him and he is charismatic, but you also know he's a crappy person. He deserves to be where he is right now, kind of a deal. Or is it going to be one of those things where it's a rallying cry to be like, he didn't deserve what he got, and that darn Carol Baskin? You know what I'm saying? That's the worry I have.
That's the character I'm curious about, is Carol, how they're gonna play her.
That too.
And also, who's going to portray her? What actress are they going to go with? I mean, that's going to dictate a lot too, I'd say.
Oh, yeah.
Who's the one that played the mother in Waterboy, and also Misery, of course?
Kathy Bates. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
I
casting.
think that'd be great.
That is such good casting. Oh my god,
I
yes.
think she'd eat that role up. I would love
That would.
So here's a question. I'm only 3 episodes into Tiger King. So does Tiger King, Joe Exotic himself, get worse? Because where I am right now, Carol Baskin and the
Dude.
Dr. Brahava,
Dude.
whatever, are so much worse than him.
Where you are right now is a completely different show than the end of it.
Oh,
I was
okay.
3 episodes deep, and I'm like, oh, this reminds me of certain communities. It felt like it was going to be about the I don't know, exotic zoo community, and how catty, and they're talking about each other's, just about each other's shit behind their backs, and it was just so catty and reminded me of everything I've seen on YouTube. But then it takes a left-hand turn, and then some things happen, and then another thing happens, and yeah, Yeah, no, you got a long way to go.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, and they released that final episode too. Finally, so I need to check this off. That.
Oh
to
yeah,
look forward
that was them like
it's a wrap up kind
That
of
was it. Okay.
thing.
It's with like Joel McHale or something, right? I think. Yeah.
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 Well, what is it? The opening of, is it the first episode when the employee loses their arm?
Yes.
Yeah, when he loses his
And then
arm.
he says, "I'll never be able to recover from this financially." And like you're like, "Oh, wait, what?"
What?
Well, it's like there's the way he said it. There's like the timing of it. It was just like the most perfect encapsulation of this dude as a person.
And it does show how editing can affect
Yes.
things, because there's a documentary too on him on YouTube about, it doesn't call it Tiger King. I think it's just basically his name and Tiger Empire or something like that. And it's about an hour and 20. It's like an hour and 20 minutes. It's like a full documentary, but it's way more sympathetic to him, right? It's like this thing where he sits down and he explains to you, like they just let the camera roll and he's explaining to you the science of raising tigers, why they can't be out. It really builds more of a case of making him sympathetic. But then you have the Netflix one, which was basically, I don't want to call it a hit piece, because I think it was one of those things where you give somebody long enough rope, they may hang themselves. Him, Doc Antler, the one with the harem, and all the others. Basically, give those people enough time on the screen, they basically do themselves, and no editing needed. But it does show you the difference that it can make, because I do think he's a polarizing figure too to some people.
Oh,
so.
a lot of it is in the edit. Like it totally, especially those first 2 or 3 episodes. Like I wanted to know more about the Scarface guy, the guy who actually got arrested and like he was smuggling a bunch of drugs through snakes and stuff.
That was
I was like, wait, what about that guy? Never mind.
He was smart enough not to be filmed a lot.
Yes. He's like, you guys get an hour at my place, and then we're done.
Let his wife show everybody around a little bit, and he was like, we're good.
Mm-hmm.
That was funny. They did segue very gracefully away from him to the dude who's got like 8 wives or whatever, and then they just never went back to that Mario guy again, or at least not from where I am right now. That is very interesting.
Yeah.
Not trying to incriminate himself too much, man. I mean, smart dude.
All right. Any thoughts on Fuego?
I still haven't watched it.
Oh.
So, I mean, I watched those first couple episodes. I've been watching movies, man. You know, that's been my jam and all of this quarantine, getting caught up on horror and a few other things. So, but I mean, like I said, the casting is the most curious thing for me, and also just what sort of tone to double down on that this representation is going to go with. So, and how much will they stylize, and how accurate will it be, or will they just veer off and do their own bonkers exaggeration? Who knows?
Yeah. So the other news that's kind of been skated upon and people have kind of dragged and exploited it a bit is the fact that AMC and then eventually
Regal.
Yeah, Regal Cinemas have blocked Universal Studios films from playing in their theaters, you know, because you can go and watch movies right now, so you know they have all the power to do that. Because of Universal going against, I don't know. So apparently Universal went against the agreement in releasing straight to VOD. And I gotta say I'm siding with Universal here because you know they're businesses. I mean, we've talked about this a couple times. People laughed when I said NATO 3 months ago, but now people are talking about the National Association of Theater Owners.
That means that all the big major outlets watch our show, and they got the word NATO from you. So, boom.
I have seen more people talking about the Disney theater. Like, I saw 2 or 3 other YouTubers talk about that. I'm like, you guys, we talked about that. Your idea's not that.
Yeah. So, it's a weird.
We're so ahead of the curve. We're a circle.
Well, it's a weird time right now, and I keep saying this to people. Theaters as a whole are in that blockbuster in the year 2006 kind of thing.
Mhm.
You could look at what the future is in VOD and adapt, or you could just be stubborn and take it on. And I think if the theater chains don't adapt with this, they're really going to have a problem, and or at least go the way of like drive-ins and be more novelty, because people are figuring out, you know what, hey, I don't need to go to the movie theater to watch a movie. Maybe I don't need that big screen experience for insert garbage movie here. And Universal, like the pricing, $20, that could be a deal for a family of 5 or something. So, they're just trying to make money, and I can't say I blame them. And Universal and Warner have been trying their best to get some sort of loophole, or get their window crushed on the release dates, because they have to wait, I think, 80 days before they can go to VOD from theatrical.
That makes sense.
And that's something that happened. So a movie that's coming out this week, Nebraska, I think it's called, had to technically cancel, and now it's out on VOD. I think the issue was that Universal didn't technically cancel, which it sounds like a formality if you ask me, but I don't know. There are ways to see movies. It's not like movies aren't being made anymore. Theaters, I don't think theaters are the ones with the power in this situation, especially as we sit here and they're still not open.
Yeah, and the irony for AMC is they've offered a VOD service through their website for a while now. So that's them just trying to compete with the Voodoos or wherever you go to Amazon to stream your stuff. And so yeah, I mean, it's a game of chicken for sure. I still kind of, as I was telling CP off air before we started this, I think Universal is going to relent, especially if more of these theater chains start banding together. But I mean, if it does in fact go down the way that they're saying, I mean, if you guys read that full statement that the AMC president and CEO or whatever, he seemed the most upset that there weren't more negotiations. The fact that they just made this decision and declared it casually in an interview. And he's like, oh, well, we didn't even have any discussions about this and your intention to do that. Right. So I don't know. I mean, I still predict it's going to be like that Spider-Man situation from a number of months ago between Sony and Disney, where they'll eventually make nice. But I could very obviously be wrong. Who knows? These are uncertain times, and when times are uncertain, you're not always certain what time it is. And anyway.
I think like there needs to be another player, because I do think Disney is becoming a monopoly. Like that's kind of crystal clear.
Yes.
For sure.
If Warner, who has yet to kind of dip their toes in either pool, if they tag along with Universal, and let's just say Netflix gets involved, and now you have this Netflix Warner Universal group, and they compete with Disney NATO. I don't know, things can happen, and it'd be interesting to see, I don't know, these studios just be a bit competitive again, because I think Disney just does what it does, and everybody else is just like, well, we're not going to topple Disney, so let's just do blank. And nobody, it just seems like these major studios, there's no effort.
Well, they're not in as good a shape as they were before all of this went down. I was reading a report from a few days ago that from the closure of their parks, they've lost over $1 billion in just the last month or so since having to close down all of their
Disney?
parks. So, I mean, It's Disney, yeah. So I mean, I'm sure they're still all right, but I
Yeah.
mean, they're not in as great a shape as they were before the world changed so drastically and quickly. So
Well, I mean, Disney has so many assets, though. They could just start liquidating things and stay in business for the next 150 years without actually turning a profit and probably be fine. But yeah, no, I do get it. You know, Regal's scared. AMC's scared. AMC has been like borderline bankrupt for like a few years now, right? Haven't they been kind of just dancing around the line a little bit?
A Chinese company bail them out.
they own
Something
like
like
60% of the
Yeah,
company
no,
now. I think
it's
it
more
is.
than bailing out.
Yeah.
There you go. I'll look up that company in a second here and get a name because I want to know who that is now. But at the same time, like, this is so reactionary, and the fact that they're doing it so publicly, it's like, even if they're in the right, they're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
And they're making it worse for themselves.
Yeah.
Which is, especially because, like, when the next Fast and the Furious movie comes out, they're going to want to show it. Because when the next guaranteed $1 billion movie comes out, they're not going to say, like, no, morals. They're going to see dollar signs. And
Well, the one that I keep seeing, again, we're pretty close to horror community. People are worried. Halloween Kills is universal. And I'm standing. I'm planting my foot. If theaters are still closed in October, Halloween Kills will release to VOD. I don't think there's any other way this plays out. I don't think Universal's going to go, you know what, actually, we made 4 times as much as we thought we were going to make with Trolls. Let's hold back with, you know, the movie that we're like banking everything on this fall. So it really depends on how long this goes too.
Do they also have Candyman?
Yes.
Is that Universal?
Yes.
Yeah.
They do. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's June, right?
Well, it was pushed to what?
No, yeah,
August or September now, something like that.
I think it was pushed towards the fall.
Yeah.
I thought it was pushed towards the fall. Yeah.
So that might be first. So we'll see there too. I'm telling you that horror and comedy are very big home money makers. Like those that when people rent, I mean this is old information, but when people rented, they usually rented horror and comedy. So
yeah, there's stuff that doesn't necessarily dictate an enormous screen like a Marvel movie or Star Wars or something like that. So
yes,
I think that's where the compromise has to start coming in. Like with this one, I don't think the public is necessarily on the side of NATO, of the theaters, just because of the fact of the ordeal that it takes when you aren't trying to see a big time movie and then possibly having to pay $20 or so, or $16 to $20 something a ticket. If you want to do IMAX or whatever it is, it's even more. And then the food is crazy price, of course, because they need to make a profit from that. So what you have is, I think the response is people thinking to themselves, why not this idea of, especially for movies that probably won't be like blockbuster films, like, you know, Fast and the Furious or something like that, movies that won't be on that level. You know, you have to think about the studios and how they're thinking of their bottom line. It's like, yeah, we could put this in a theater and then it doesn't do well. And then the narrative gets ahead of it that it was a crappy movie because it didn't do well in theaters. And then we have to fight uphill to then get people to rent it or to buy it. And it's like, how about we just get it straight to people directly and we don't have to deal with the off chance, like when it's not a sure bet, you know, because studios are risk adverse. When things aren't a sure bet, they don't want to put a lot of money behind it a lot of time and whatnot. So I think they're thinking of the future of this non-Disney studios where they're thinking, you know, we have stuff that isn't necessarily big blockbuster things. What's another model, another medium that we can use? And I think the AMC, and I think Regal like sort of supported AMC, but I don't know if they actually put their foot down in banning it yet. I don't know if they said they were
banning is I don't know.
I don't know if they
that
went
word
that
banning
far
into the
yet.
thing, but yeah, they're you're using another word. They're postponing, I think was the word that I heard.
I think at the end you have to see who has the power in this situation,
well,
right? It's
right
like
now, it's
yeah.
it's the studios.
Yeah, because they have the
Yeah.
content. Content is king in that regard
Right.
because they actually have the content. I mean, if a theater is not open right now, we see the trajectory that it might be July or August. And even then, it's going to be half house for a lot of these places. And it's a whole new makeup of how they're going to be able to run. And it's so, yeah, you can say, well, what you can't show in ours, but they might say, well, you have half the seating that we could have anyway. Why wouldn't we go directly?
Right.
And I think it's going to be like, was being said, that it's maybe a game of chicken in this regard, like who's going, and I think ultimately though, who's going to determine that is the public. Funny enough, I think it's going to be determined by the public. I think the studio is going to have to think, are people going to be willing to pay for the direct and put the pressure on the theaters when they do want to see it, to say, hey, why don't you have this bigger movie? I'm canceling this sub I get, like AMC subscription type thing, because you're not playing the movies I want, so on and so forth.
I'm telling you, theaters are going to get hurt. They're going to get hurt regardless, because they're gonna have to take something on the chin, and whether it be the studio saying, all right, then we want some of your concession money then. And that is going to hurt. And, they're going to have to concede somewhere. And I don't know where they have the ability to do so. Because we got to get the numbers on opening weekend, because I think it's 90-10. I think studios get 90% opening weekend and theaters get 10. So I don't know, maybe studios say, hey, listen, we'll give you 10% of what we make. And just I don't know, it just seems like something's they're going to have to concede something, and I don't know what that is, but they have to stay alive.
Yeah. Oh, they do. And I mean, the AMC guy pointed more towards the tradition of this business model that's been around for decades. And, as somebody in the chat mentioned a little while ago, they're like, well, if there is a contract of still doing things in a certain fashion, waiting those X amount of days, as you mentioned, for Universal to just publicly say that they're going to kind of go away from that contract without further negotiations. I mean, I don't know. I kind of sympathize with the theaters in this situation because of the tradition and the business model. But on the other hand, yeah, times are changing. And I mean, especially for a movie like this Trolls sequel, kids movies, it is a hassle, I would imagine, to bring your brood of children out to a theater, as opposed to just having the option to just click it right at home and don't have to worry about just keeping them under control and stuff. So, I mean, especially with like more children's friendly programming, I could see this definitely continuing.
Yeah, it's going to hurt somewhere. Somewhere it's going to.
I guess my question is, how much money? How much is the industry of theaters right now? Like, what is it? Billions? Like who? Because it's okay. So I'm not trying to get all like socialist, communist, or whatever with it, but like when it comes to like, I never really feel bad for bosses, period. But I do wonder, like, okay, so it's like this idea of they don't want to compromise with this idea, because I don't think studios are straight up saying we will never show our stuff in your theaters again. We just want to go straight to VOD. That's not the case. It's this idea of, hey, guess what? Some of these movies, we don't think they're going to do that well in theaters. We'd like to like shorten the gap so we can like put it out earlier, or maybe not do that one at all, but give you the other one. Like, they're playing around with it for their bottom line, these studios. And I think this idea, I feel like maybe these theaters are so used to making a good amount of money from having the access, the first dib access to this stuff. And I wonder that if they didn't have that, would they really necessarily go under? I mean, except for AMC, but with the other ones, would they necessarily go under, or would they make a modest profit? I think maybe some of these, people who own these theaters that are so used to making billions, that to them millions that's a step too far. And it's just like, well, you'd still be in business, you just wouldn't be making as much as you used to. No one needs $1 billion. You know what I mean? CEOs don't need 7-figure salaries. You know what I mean? Like, let's just be real. None of them are gonna be poor if they take less of a profit necessarily at this. They're not gonna be poor. They're gonna be regular. And what's wrong with that, right? So, okay, I'll get
actually there's a really interesting discussion to be had about hey, yeah, you made less than you did before, but that's not a bad thing. Yeah, exactly.
You made 8 million versus 10 billion. Okay, that's a lot for your lifestyle, but you still made 8 million.
This is also,
you're still doing pretty good.
This again, we're capitalists. So if you fail, you fail. Yeah, if okay, so John Carter didn't make what it expected. Is AMC gonna say, hey, you know what? It kind of sucks. Here's 200 million. They're just an exposition house. They really need to. I'm excited to see what comes of this, because there's gonna have to be a new agreement somehow, or to see if there's some sort of fight. And like I said, Netflix is already on their bad side. You get Netflix, and even if it's just Netflix and Universal to team up, and Netflix is like, hey, all right, so Universal, we'll throw blank your way if you premiere your movies on Netflix, and like they charge a $10 fee or something like that, and get to show Universal movies on Netflix. There's like these options that really can make it interesting, and the longer we sit, the longer it looks worse for the theater companies.
Yeah, studios have options. Theaters, the option is to try to get the studios to give them content.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, in this day and age, studios have options. Maybe they may not make millions upon millions, but they'll still have options to get their content out there and make some form of money. Theater has to depend on the studio. So who has the real power in this position, except them hoping that they're seen as a big detriment that people can't go to the theater? But some of these movies, let's be real, they wouldn't do that well in theaters, like on the level. Unless you're Disney, where some stuff is just a guaranteed hit because Marvel, whatever. But like in other ones, it's like, it's a gamble. So, studios going to look for other ways to make guaranteed money.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of interesting statistics here from questions that were brought
up.
One, it was the Wanda Group that bought a huge stake in AMC a few years ago. They own 38% of them. They are a Chinese-based group. They're listed 380th on the Fortune Global 500 list. And they also own Legendary Entertainment and are the biggest movie distributors in China.
Wow.
And according to a Google search, the U.S. Movie theater industry generates, like the theaters themselves, generate $18.9 billion. Or at least they did.
Legendary.
More or less.
That's interesting, because Legendary is associated with Christopher Nolan.
Oh, it is.
Well, then that makes a lot of sense, because he hates Netflix.
It does. That's interesting, actually. Okay.
Huh. That.
All you gotta do is follow the money and find out why people have the opinions they do.
That's really interesting, actually.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to throw you off the tracks there. I just
had answers to those two questions that came up, and I just wanted to throw them out there before I or someone else forgot about them. But that is an interesting connection right there. Tinfoil hat.
Yeah. Wait, I have
as well as my tinfoil bracelet.
The story where Universal and Warner, back in November of 18, they were fighting for early release in 19, and that, I guess, went nowhere.
So they've been wanting to do this for a while, and they're just using this opportune, situation to kind of push their point. But I mean, AMC is obviously in desperation mode, and that's why they're being so just egregious with this sort of like public feud and the way it's all going.
They took the movie pass model, and kind of adopted it, and
And I loved
they
it.
didn't show any remorse when MoviePass went tits up. So
To be fair, MoviePass was great, but it deserved
oh
to
my
die.
God, it was so terrible. Great idea.
But I mean,
great idea.
Yeah, no. Great concept. They could not have messed it up harder, and it deserved to fail for it. But I do not regret those first few years, man. Those were amazing.
Yeah. Just it's capitalism. There's nothing else to it.
Greed is good, to quote old Gordon Gekko. So, right?
It is good.
Eat the rich. No.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, no, I love that phrase. Yeah. I've been running a ton of D&D campaigns and stuff with a bunch of my friends during all this, and I had an NPC the other day say, "Eat the rich," and then one of the players is like, "Yeah, good idea."
So Fuego, you've been watching some of the stuff that's been. Has there been any movies in the last month that have been good enough that it became an unfortunate thing that they weren't able to be seen on the big screen, or have some gems coming through the rough there?
I mean, I just watch so much smaller stuff like indie horror and things of that nature. I just watched something called The Other Lamb, which is an IFC midnight release about kind of this religious cult, and they're out in the wilderness and stuff, and it was going to get limited theatrical. That's the thing. I mean, most of what I gravitate towards is of that smaller variety that really probably wouldn't even need to be in a theater anyway. I'm totally fine watching stuff like that at home, and yeah, nothing really, man. I still haven't seen Bloodshot. I don't know, $20 for a movie that I was just going to use my AMC stubs for anyway. I'm just like, this is not worth it, man. I mean, I'm having to pick and choose, to what sort of VOD stuff. I ordered The Way Back, the Affleck, the other day. Haven't watched it yet. Downhill, which I think is it's Julia Louis-Dreyfus and Will Ferrell. It's a remake of a European comedy. I still haven't watched that yet, but I did order it on Vudu at least. And so, I mean, yeah, there's stuff that was going to be out, but nothing as far as all the big tentpole releases. They've all been pushed back as opposed to dumped on VOD. The stuff that's been dumped on VOD is nothing that prolific.
Yeah,
at least from what I've seen.
This week would have been Marvel.
Wasn't the Chris Hemsworth? Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just saying, wasn't the Chris Hemsworth movie Extraction supposed to be in the theaters, but then they ended up putting it on Netflix?
That's a good question.
They said it was from the visionaries who did the Avengers, and I think it was supposed to go to in the theater, but then when they saw what was happening, they made a deal with Netflix. I can look.
Yeah,
I think I saw that because there's a lot of posters around, and it looks like a big screen movie. Like,
yeah.
The way it looked like they've tried, that was totally supposed to be aimed for that.
See, I thought that had the same business model because it was produced by the Russo brothers, and it's called Extraction. I want to say. Yeah. I still haven't watched it. I'm kind of less about the shoot 'em up stuff. I don't think they made them like they did in the 80s and 90s anymore, except for those John Wick movies. Those are pretty fun. But I thought that had the same. Oh goodness, Transformers guy Michael Bay, how he just put out that film in 6 months ago that had Van Wilder in it.
Underground
so
or something like that?
Same. Yeah. So I thought Extraction had the same approach where it was always intended for Netflix, but I can't say no for sure. So
6 Underground. That's very, very Michael Bay, that movie. There's so much Michael Bay in the first 20 minutes.
Is he pulling a Tarantino? Is he acting in it?
No. It's just
I know.
Sexy cars and sexy people and things blown up and speed and noise and explosions and Michael Bay. Just all of the Michael Bay right up in front. It's
noise.
Loud noise.
Exactly.
Oversaturated picture. Yeah, it's just.
The aspect ratio constantly changing. That annoyed me so much. And what was it, The Last Night or whatever, where it was literally every other shot was widescreen, full screen, widescreen, full screen, widescreen, full screen, widescreen, full screen. It's like, dear God. I feel like the movie was constantly trying to pop off the screen at me. It's like, ah.
What about you, Lindsey? Have you watched anything?
Other than Tiger King, not a whole hell of a lot that I think people would want me to hear. Like I watched the documentary about Star Trek Deep Space Nine, What We Left Behind last week, and it was really good. It was a lot of fun, and I learned a lot of things like from behind the scenes and stuff. One of my favorite shows. But again, I don't know if otherwise. No, honestly, I've just been doing a lot of D&D for my sanity and my friends around me. So I've got about 3 different groups I've been running right now. It's been a good time though.
Well, I mean, you guys finished season 7 of the Clone Wars, right? Because that shit was pretty legit, man. I gotta say, those last 4 episodes are basically their own little movie, and the Darth Maul stuff is so dope. I mean, the fight with him and Ahsoka is just one of the best things I've seen as far as lightsaber battles ever. It's so rad. But
I should get on that. I really should. One of these days I just need to start the whole series.
Oh, yes, Ben. Vivarium was good. Has anybody seen or heard of that?
Oh, what is that?
Jesse Eisenberg.
Yeah, that's one that I reviewed on my channel. It's good. I mean, it's definitely a isolation movie for sure. It's him and Imogen Poots, who he was with in The Art of Self-Defense, which is a terrific movie if you guys haven't seen that. Black is all hell comedy as far as just the darkness of it goes and whatnot. But
on the comedy.
yeah, it's got quite an ending, I gotta say. But yeah, it's Vivarium. It's got some dark comedy to it as well. But it really, at the end of the day, it kind of morphs into a horror movie in the third act for sure. So
yeah,
it's good.
Yeah, it felt like a Twilight Zone episode of sorts. But yeah, hopefully people get the word, because that does deserve attention. The Lodge I've heard about. I haven't seen. Apparently, it just hit.
Oh, actually,
The Lodge is awesome. It's a bad time though. It's not it's not going to leave you feeling happy afterwards. That is damn sure. And it just hit home release yesterday. So
yeah. Okay, all right. So get the kitten videos ready, and then throw on The Lodge.
Yeah, Tiger King. Actually, you know something interesting that I learned the other day? One of the very first movies ever made was just of a kitten. We've been making cat videos since as long as we've had the ability to record images and make them move.
They are amazing.
Right?
Did you find out what you were looking for, Chauncey?
Yeah, well, it looks like it's Netflix that made that, which is interesting to me because it looks like it was supposed to be. It looks like it would be a big screen kind of thing, but I guess they're doing the action thing a lot more on the smaller screen, I guess. So, and Extraction 2 is already in the works because in the first 4 weeks of it coming out, it was, as their Netflix saying, even though they never give actual. Then they're saying it's the biggest premiere ever. It's well on its way to being the biggest premiere ever for Netflix, with a projected 90 million people. What is it, 90 million? Yeah.
Yeah,
90 million households getting in on the action in the first 4 weeks. Thanks to everyone who watched so far, Chris Hemsworth said. This might be his biggest solo one, to be honest.
I want stats, damn it.
They usually do. His movies don't do that great outside of the Marvel thing. Yeah. He's had some hit or misses, so it shows that he can totally be an action star. But just when people are maybe have not much of the choices.
Those Netflix stats are so clumsy though. You know how many episodes of a season I've actually watched while I was asleep, and then I wake up to a screen, or are you still watching this? No, I fell asleep.
Well, back when, what was it, the Hateful Eight, or no, the Ridiculous Six or whatever came out, if you finished watching anything on Netflix that tried to instant start watching Ridiculous Six. So I think I woke up halfway through Ridiculous Six at least twice. And I think their metrics right now, they might have changed, but around the time the Irishman came out, they set it so watching 30 seconds of something counts as you watching it. So maybe they've changed that. Maybe that's what it still is. Maybe that's why Extraction got so big. I want to see it. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. I do love these events.
That's what I need.
So sorry.
I said I need that edit to my algorithm. 30 seconds counts as a full view.
Yeah. Oh God, right?
If only.
Oh, and yes, to Matt Larch in the chat, Chris Hemsworth was so good in Bad Times at the El Royale and Cabin in the Woods.
Indeed.
Exceptional. Yeah.
No, he's a great actor. He's a great comedic actor too. I just think he doesn't get enough credit for that sometimes because he really has very good comedic timing and stuff. So yeah, it's I'm glad he seems like a cool guy. I'm glad his movie's doing well. Yeah.
Honestly, I think it's unfair sometimes how funny Chris Hemsworth is. He's too good looking to be that funny.
Right,
That's the trade-off.
How do you have both? Like something's supposed to be less than, but
and it's probably an unpopular opinion, but I thought he was hilarious in The Girl Busters.
Yeah.
I thought
Yeah.
he had some of the most genuine laughs in that movie for me. So
Like the Mike Hat scene was just like I still quote that to a friend of mine every now and again. Like it's just so good.
yeah.
Taika Waititi was announced to be directing a Star Wars film.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what. Go ahead.
no, I'm not gonna. I'm so tired of like nothing.
Are you not a Taika fan?
No, I like him. I just it's
Star
always
Wars?
like it's like someone's a hot person like doing like great stuff, and it's like we pulled them in for a Star Wars thing, and it's just like, geez, just let them do other movies. Not everyone needs to direct this franchise. Like
I agree with that. Yeah, that's a very good point, actually.
So and so such a great director. Guess what, guys? Like leave him alone.
Yeah, it does seem weird because they grab the name and then like then they they've had trouble. They've lost a couple of
like to rebuke them. It's like just leave them alone. Let them do their thing. Everyone doesn't have to direct a Star Wars thing. It's not a rite of passage.
Yeah.
And even Taika's actually had his issues with Disney because he was originally supposed to direct or be like the main writer, of the two for Moana.
He did some stuff
but then,
for Mandalorian though, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
The final episode, and I just watched that roundtable on Disney Plus, and it's pretty awesome with all the directors. So they have Deborah Chow and Dave Filoni and everybody, and they all just sit down and they talk about the process collaboratively with Jon Favreau. And it's almost like those dinner for fives that he used to do, where he would just get a group of really fascinating creative directors and actors, and they would just all have dinner and drinks and just shoot the shit. And it had that kind of very loose, casual but passionate vibe. So it's cool. Yeah.
Cool. I'll have to check that out. Okay.
Yeah.
I cannot wait for Baby Yoda season 2. Like every time I see anything about that on Twitter, I'm just instantly excited.
I'm excited for Rosario Dawson being in it.
Amen. Yeah. Her as Ahsoka, I can't wait to see what they do with that. And speaking of just bringing all those talented directors, they announced Peyton Reed is going to direct an episode of season 2. Robert Rodriguez is going to direct an episode of season 2. And I love some Robert Rodriguez, man. I mean, Sin City, From Dusk Till Dawn. Come on. Even though some of his recent stuff hasn't been as good. But,
No, when I saw that tweet from Rodriguez with the Baby Yoda puppet, I pumped. I did a fist pump. Like, yes! Yeah. Oh my god!
Wait, what? Didn't he direct Alita?
He did.
I liked Alita. I thought it was quite alright.
I liked it a lot too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all.
Spy Kids and Lava Girl and all that stuff. I don't know, but yeah.
Hey, Shark Boy went on to have a bit of an interesting career.
Yeah, Twilight Boy, yeah, right.
Good old TL there, Taylor Lautner.
The thing about Taika though that I just wanted to add just real quick is the fact that remember what happened with Lord and Miller with Solo and the fact that they wanted that improving on set and stuff, and Taika's notorious for letting his actors just kind of go with it, and you got a little bit of that in that 10th episode with the stormtroopers at the beginning with them just kind of goofing. And so Kathleen Kennedy likes things very structured and just very uniform, I guess, and so that's where I just wonder. I mean, he is the golden boy for Marvel and Disney specifically, because of how much people love that Thor film. And he's still working on that 4th Thor movie. So when's he gonna have time for this new Star Wars film?
He is doing Love and Thunder. That's right.
Yeah. He was what made the Thor ones good again, because Thor Ragnarok was the best one out of the Thor films. It was by far the best. That's why Natalie came back. And it's, I don't know, I feel like he's got a full plate. But when people are hot in Hollywood, they like to drain them dry.
Yeah,
So
True.
not that anyone's gonna turn down a check, of course not. But yeah.
Especially Disney money. That's big bucks right there, yo.
Yeah, he's a very creative guy, though, and it's like you don't want to spread yourself too thin and overdo it. That's what I would worry. Because he likes to do a big movie and then do a smaller, more personal project. He's been notorious for that for a while.
One for them, one for me. Yeah, he.
Yeah.
Jojo Rabbit was his in exchange for Thor, wasn't it? Wasn't Jojo Rabbit his that he got to make because he did Thor? So curious to know what. Because he is quite creative and quite funny.
Yes.
So it'll be interesting to see what his other movie will be. not the Star Wars movie, but the thing he gets in exchange for Star Wars.
He's gonna make a movie about Trump, where he's like the imagination of like a little boy somewhere in America.
You can kind of do it. Just you can just kind of replace it and just do it now.
Oh God.
Any other news?
Oh, there's our fair share of stuff. How about that rebranding of the Sony universe of Marvel characters, or whatever the hell they're starting to call it? They actually gave a brand to their own version of the MCU, and people were just tearing it to pieces, because it's between Morbius and between Venom, Let There Be Carnage, which is the most hilarious title. I almost love how stupid it is, and the next Spidey film, and they also have Into the Spider-Verse, although both of those were delayed the full year. Just like, I don't know if we were going to get into delays at some point, but Spiral, the new Saw movie, delayed an entire year. The next John Wick movie delayed an entire year. It's just, they are trying to distance themselves with hopes that everything is going to have some sort of normality eventually, but they're not. With lots of these, they're not taking any chances, man. They are putting as much distance as possible, which is a bummer, because those were a few films I was quite excited about.
The stuff that got delayed, I'm almost all but convinced that they had more stuff to film, or reshoots or something.
Oh yeah, pickups, reshoots, whatever.
What did you explode at, Lindsey?
So the Sony Pictures universe of Marvel films is what they're calling it. And these things always get shortened. The MCU, the DCEU.
Yeah.
For this, it's SPUMP. Come on, guys. No.
SPUMP?
SPUMP. You can't.
Yes,
you can't do that.
SEUMC. It's ridiculous.
For the record, I also really, really like There Will Be Carnage. That makes me think the movie's going to be a bit hammy, and that's kind of perfect.
There will be blood.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh my God, if they bring him into that movie too for like a random little parts, oh my God, I really want Venom 2 now.
Also delayed significantly, right? It's a bummer.
And does Morbius have a release date, or is that just in the nebulous realm of?
I thought it had one at one point, and it got pushed as well. They pushed all of those films.
Sony's being a good lapdog. So anything that keeps the theaters happy, Sony's just, yep, okay. What's her face? Sydney Prescott, Neve Campbell is
Neve Campbell, Scream.
Yeah, Scream.
Oh,
in talks for Scream 5. So.
That'd be cool.
I don't know who, how, why, what.
I liked the last Scream.
I did too.
The twist was kind of bad, I thought, but I liked the movie.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah, 4 was a lot better than 3. 3 is the weakest of the series for me. 4 was interesting because it commented on the remake culture, and Scream 2 commented on, which is my favorite of the series actually, commenting on the sequel culture. I just wonder what sort of angle of meta-ness they can really go with.
You need Kevin Williamson to write it.
Absolutely.
But who do you have direct it is the question.
Well, you've got the two guys that did Ready or Not, so they're signed on to do this.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
I feel like they could play on the whole idea of what's happening right now. You have Nev Campbell coming back, just like you had Jamie Lee Curtis go back to Halloween. So then you have that character that talks about what happens when a franchise goes for like 20 some odd years, and then they bring back the original to somehow pump in life and blah, 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 and all the good and bad that happens with that. And whether or not the audience is ever going to be satisfied. Do you kill that main girl now, or do you have to keep her alive? Like, which way do you go? Because I don't think Jamie's going to make that. Like, that's my theory for that Halloween movie, and that's why I kind of dread, because I think they're going to eventually just kill her off to like somehow do something else. And I worry that's what they're going to do with Nev Campbell Sydney. So I just, I worry when they bring a character that people love back. It's like if Sigourney Weaver went back to Alien,
Which she was going to when they had Neil Blomkamp was working on that spiritual sequel to the second film. She was all like, her and Michael Biehn were both going to come back. I'm sad that movie didn't end up happening. I was pretty stoked, but
my soul wanted that movie.
They finally killed Dewey.
And Fox is no more. And Fox is no more. So forget it. It's not a happening.
Well, they finally killed Dewey in this movie, goddammit, because they teased it in all 4 of those previous Scream movies. They're like, Dewey's dead. No, Dewey makes it. He just got stabbed up a little bit,
What if Dewey's the killer this time?
You gotta do something, because it's kind of out of left field, because Wes directed all of them.
What if it's Sydney, because her life has become boring, so she wants excitement again, so she's like, oh, I want to go back to the old days, and so these are bad twists. I hope none of these happen.
Yeah. It would tarnish Sydney's legacy if she ends up, because it's like the whole idea is that she stays strong and she doesn't break down throughout it, although they could play with the trope that she's broken and has constant nightmares ever since it all happened, like they did with Jamie Lee Curtis's character, so, which I didn't care for either.
You can have her.
I liked her in H2O. I liked the way she moved on in H2O. I liked
H2O. I'm with you,
movie, and I thought that was a great way. And then they did the next movie, and then they killed her off, and I was like, you know what? Y'all gotta stop this. Like, just let her have a happy life. She beat the guy, and she won. And it's one of those things where they're not going to let her be happy. I just know it.
Yeah, I actually prefer H2O to the film from a couple years ago.
Yeah, she had a boyfriend, she had a career, and then they bring her back for this, which was fine. It was an okay movie. I thought it was okay. I thought the ending was a little weird, but it was like, she's been living in this house for years. She's, let herself go, sort of. And I'm just like, what? Like, what are you doing? Like, she was triumphant. Why didn't she get allowed to have a life? Like, that's, she's estranged from her daughter. Like, get out of here.
Because money. Because money.
Whatever. I didn't like it. I didn't like Pretty Lies.
Also, I completely agree about the ending. Like, I kind of do like that movie up until the ending when Michael Myers gets out of the basement.
Somehow gets out of the basement, and first thing I thought was like, oh my gosh, they're gonna try to make another movie.
Right,
I was like, all right, fine.
Aren't like people like looking at him too, and he just disappears, like through editing? Like how did it even go? I forgot.
Movie. It's a slasher.
He just wasn't there. He wasn't in the bed or anything when everything started catching fire. He just wasn't down there. Somehow he got out.
Guys, there's actually been 2 Michael Myers this entire time. It was twins.
Well,
just like Scream.
If you think about Ready or Not, that movie's quite sharp. So maybe the Scream 5 is in decent enough hands. Even
the guys that made Ready or Not, they're pretty fearless and seem like they'll kind of just do balls to the walls crazy, and that works very well with Scream.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Will the other 2 from the trio come back though? Can they get David Arquette? Does Courtney Cox care? I mean, because I think you have to have all 3 of them back to really, seal up this franchise. But then again, if it's successful, they'll want to make a 6th Scream, and they'll probably swoop in with the quickness to do it, just like with Halloween.
I think enough time's passed where you don't necessarily need all of them. Like you just do the typical, hey, this is a decade old sequel, so here's a framed picture of the person that we couldn't get to be in the movie, just to let you know they're still around. Their picture on a wall, and then something like that. I don't know.
I don't know, for people not to hate it though.
No.
You know, because to not have the campaign against like, what is this? Why? You know, I think it's really great that they're getting Neve Campbell. They're trying to get her to come back, because that I would feel fine with her and not the others. It would be weird because I think the others, they were in a lot. They kept showing up or whatever. But like, yeah, it'd be, I don't know. I mean, Courtney Cox, she was willing to do Friends. So I think she's going to be willing to come back for Scream if she was willing to do a Friends reunion, which, yeah.
Yeah, it's really the only other iconic thing that she has done besides Friends is those Scream movies.
A little thing called Masters of a Little Thing Called the Universe. Thank you very much.
Also, Ace Ventura. Hello.
Was she in that?
What?
First one,
Courtney Cox is in Ace Ventura, yeah.
I don't remember Cameron Diaz. I feel bad now.
Oh, no. Cameron.
Oh, that was the mask.
Yeah.
I do not remember Ace Ventura.
Yeah,
I don't even remember a character that she could. I mean, it's been like 20 years since I've seen.
She's this female employee of the Miami Dolphins. She's like the public relations girl or whatever. And it was the pseudo love interest, sort of.
Oh yeah, in the jungle, the mighty jungle. I always remember that scene. It was just like, oh, okay, silly. So there you go.
And does that wrap up our news?
I mean, if you guys want to talk about the fact that they're altering some of those stipulations for the Oscars next year because they're going to allow direct-to-VOD films, because of the fact that so many, especially of those smaller art house films that probably wouldn't have done much money in theaters anyway, are just going direct-to-VOD. But I mean, so they're altering some of the eligibility, which I guess with the way this year has gone, it had to inevitably happen. But
so Underwater
if theaters
still
are back open,
we're good. As long as Underwater still has a chance, I'm okay.
I loved Underwater. That movie was fun, man. I really dug it. Sad it bombed at the theater because they spent some money on that and it didn't. Yeah, box office bomb. Yeah. Bummer.
When does Academy Award nomination normally get announced?
January, right?
I think, yeah. January, February, because it's in April or? Do
you think they're gonna have the Academy Awards at that time? You think they're still gonna try to have it?
February, we're still stuck like this. If we're still,
I don't think we'll be stuck, but a lot of stuff is just getting pushed back so far. They might have slim pickings and might be like, do we really want to have an award show?
Nah, give it to Bad Boys. Fuck it. No, picture of the year, Bad Boys.
They're not gonna allow that. They're not gonna allow.
I want some love for The Gentleman, man. I thought that movie was
I haven't
terrific.
seen that yet.
Guy Ritchie returning to form, man. That's a fun film.
The best I've ever seen. The Sons of Anarchy guy.
Charlie Hunnam?
Charlie Hunnam, yeah. The best I've ever seen Charlie Hunnam. He's so good in that movie.
Remember when they kept trying to make him a thing?
Yes.
They tried. They're like, Pacific Rim, you're going to like him. It was like the Sam Worthington factor, or like the Taylor Kitsch factor, where they're like, no, you're going to like this guy. We're going to keep putting him in these big movies. You're just like, I'm not really liking him so much.
I like Sam Worthington.
Yeah, I do too. He just didn't catch the way like a lot of studio execs probably thought he would, because he was in Terminator, Salvation, and then he was in Avatar, and which we had some Avatar set photos that hit this week too, where they just had. Well, they just basically had Cameron filming people in these huge pools of water, and it's them trying to remind people, hey, these are still happening, guys. Don't forget.
Hasn't that been years in the making? I feel like it's going to be that folklore type, like, oh, yes, this movie is coming, and it's just like every year.
Like filming them all at the same time. There's four movies, at once.
Mm-hmm.
What if two sucks? What do you do with?
What if one sucks?
That's what I'm saying. What if the sequel sucks? What do you do from there?
Right. Oh, I get what you mean. What is? Because the
part
first
two.
One is going to be. Yeah, I understand. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I love it because a lot of people got paid a lot of money to be working for a very long time. The crews for those movies are probably like the happiest crews in Hollywood right now.
But the folks working off that back end
stuff. The first Avatar is such.
those folks working up that back end stuff, they may not have such a good time.
I mean, you're not wrong. But yeah, man, like it's like 5 movies. Like it didn't work out for Fantastic Beasts. Who knows what's going on with that? Like it's just DCEU can't get their shit together. Like the Dark Universe can't get its shit together. Like what if Avatar 2 is terrible? Like,
yeah.
You got 4 movies in the can. What are you gonna do with them?
Like and who?
VOD.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. That would actually be really cool if the second one comes out, everyone hates it, then they just released all the other ones online. That would be cool. I would be down for that.
It's Disney now, right? Because it was Fox.
It is.
Oh.
Yep.
Yeah,
Oh.
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, you know,
Easy.
I say this at least once a week. What the hell's the deal with Avatar? I always find myself wondering. I mean, who the hell? Nobody cares about these movies. Why is it happening?
I mean, it was the highest grossing movies for like 7 years. I get it, you know. Yeah. I mean, you can't make a sequel to Titanic, you know. But you make a sequel to Avatar.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, cool. Wizard of Oz was cool too, but you know, we're not. You know, they tried doing a sequel to that, and
I love that movie. I love Return to Oz, man. That scared the shit out of me as a kid. Mombi with all the heads and stuff, and the Gnome King and the Wheelers. It's got a fond place in my
and
heart.
a prequel too. James Franco was in a prequel to.
Same Raimi.
that.
Oz the Great and Powerful, or whatever.
Chauncey, not a fan?
Yeah, that movie. That's a very bad movie. I agree. I hate that movie.
I have a soft spot for it. Because I like Oz so much. I mean, I've read tons of those books. L. Frank Baum did like over a dozen of those Oz books, man. It's crazy.
I like the Foley work on the little girl, because whenever she ran, you hear a little tink tink of her, because she was made of ceramic. The little tink 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 tink. That's all.
There was a lot of aspects in the movie I liked, but I hated Mila Kunis's character. I hated her whole story. I hated that the reason the Wicked Witch of the West is green is because she's green with envy. Like, I just hated so much of that.
So silly. All right.
Yeah. I thought Mila owned it when she was in that makeup because Mila's a badass, but like, no, it just didn't work.
Anything else?
Tom Cruise making a movie on a space station. I thought that was kind of funny.
So worried for him.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. There's so much that could go wrong in space.
There's so much that can go wrong. I'm so worried for Tom Cruise.
Who didn't?
What they're going to do at the
I
International Space Station. Yeah.
Like I don't want to lose him.
Can somebody get him in touch with a professional? Maybe he needs money. Maybe he really needs money.
No.
Maybe he's got a really bad coke addict, guys, and he just really needs to, like, that's how he stays so skinny.
Yeah.
Well, he's a vampire, right? I mean, I saw that photo that was on Twitter the other day of him and Lip Nicky from Jerry Maguire, and it was that kid all grown up and looking even older than Tom Cruise. It was crazy, and Tom Cruise looked the exact same 25 years ago. So. Crazy.
Yeah, the fountain of youth. Mm-hmm. That's what he. Yeah, but so.
And it's with Elon Musk or something.
What? Oh yeah, he's got to be involved, I guess, because it's like a private industry trying to do space stuff. So SpaceX probably needs to be involved, not NASA. Which does not make me feel safer for Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're going to shoot it up at the International Space Station that's been up there for a long time. So, I mean, everybody thought Mission Impossible was going to go to space before he did a little spin-off. Maybe those producers at Paramount were just like, nah, this isn't that great of an idea. We're not okay with this. So.
Wow.
I'm just picturing Tom Cruise doing his what's that scene from Detective Pikachu where Detective Pikachu's like cowards, like Tom Cruise doing his equivalent of that.
Yeah, like how do you test? Like you got to have a crew. So how do you test some of this? Like how do you test that you can do some of this? You can't just send a crew up there and be like, all right, let's try for
see what happens. Yeah. Like
that's scary.
Also, like, yeah, how big of a crew? Like, how many people could fit on the International Space Station?
And what does the union say for those people who are
the hazard pay?
Like, is the union covering this? You know, like, what's OSHA think? Like, it's a thing where it's like, do y'all really want to do this? Like, do they have to sign a waiver? Like, this is real stuff. Like, you know what I mean? It's crazy to have this conversation, but it's like, well, do you workers want to go up to space? You've never, because don't astronauts have to train for like ever?
Wait,
Oh, yeah,
they can,
which the whole crew will
they
have
can,
to, right? Obviously.
Wait, they can just green screen one of those planes. One of, the planes that they have.
Yeah, that do the dive and the climb and fall. Those ones.
There's these planes that they get high enough where the altitude, like it's like a tube in the back, and like there's no gravity.
Well, I think I know what you're talking about. You're talking about where they like descend really fast, and while they're in the descent.
I don't know. I don't know what. I know Tom Cruise has spent time on one. It's like it's a plane that has a tube, and it's got like padding on the ceiling and everything, because you're without gravity. I'd rather see them do something like that, just green screen the inside of one of those, or gravity wasn't that bad, and that is what, 5 years old now. So what? Let's lean on CGI here for this one. No.
Yeah, I appreciate the aspirations for authenticity, but at the end of the day, it feels very gimmicky to me. So, I mean, how compelling of a story can you even tell in that sort of situation?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
And they're trying to send them to space, though. That's what they're trying to do, like really go to space.
Yeah. How much of the film will they actually do up there? Will it be the entirety of the project? Will it only be just a portion of it for certain?
It's only one scene.
Maybe they do like found footage, kind of. You know what I mean? That way it's less
Europa
crude.
Report already happened.
But not in space.
Europa Report well, it took place in space. So.
Yeah, but it wasn't really in space.
Yes, you're right. You're right. Touche.
And what was the found footage moon movie? That was a thing, right?
Yeah, it was like Apollo 15 or 16 or something like that, where there was like alien life on the moon. I actually liked that movie. That was fun.
That one has a special place in my heart, but it's not.
That's a movie that actually exists?
Yeah.
Why was there? How?
It was a horror movie from a few years ago.
And the camera's just running on the moon for.
Oh, because like astronauts have their like little cameras on their helmets or something.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
And so they're doing a moonwalk, and then they see what they think is like a creature, an alien of some sort on the moon, and it's a creepy movie. It's not terrific or anything, but it was fun. So,
it's got some memorable moments in it. It works.
You've got the moon where it's just pure nothingness. Like you could play with the horror of that. Like for some reason, like two dudes go up to the moon and the partner dies, and the guy just freaks out. Like I don't know. I'm on depression meds, so maybe I'm just thinking of
or you go to the moon and find Nazis there. Like that great song.
That is riding around on Tyrannosaurus Rexes or whatever the hell.
Yeah. There's that. You could do that too.
Man, if we have World War III and it doesn't involve Nazis on Tyrannosaurus Rexes from the moon, I'm going to be so upset.
Wait, no, they weren't from the moon. They were from Earth. They were from the core.
And they went and they found,
I see. Okay.
It's so ridiculous. It's
Was it a movie or is it? I know it's a thing.
It was a pair of movies, actually. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Iron Sky.
I want to check it out. What was it called?
And then Iron Sky: The Coming Race, I think.
Oh.
Yeah, and that came out like 10 years, like, was it 5 or 10 years after that first one or something? It was like a big gap between
Sarah Palin was supposed to.
Great.
Sarah Palin's the president, or a knockoff of Sarah Palin is the president in the first one, so she's still
parasailing.
She's still technically president of the. Well, I don't know. It's silly. It's so silly. But I mean, it's like Chauncey said. I mean, I watched it. And my finger was just hovering over stop, like you.
But you end up watching
like my finger's like, you shouldn't be finishing this. Do something else. And I was like, I can't stop watching. But yeah, it's an okay time.
So much stuff they can do in space. I guess. To actually really be in space.
Did anybody have any plans to watch anything in the coming days until we see each
I'm
other?
gonna finish Tiger King, that's for sure.
Uh-huh.
Well, there's a horror movie that came out this past weekend. It was actually in select drive-ins and on VOD. It's called The Wretched. It's this like kid next door thinks his neighbor is like taken over by this like witch presence or something like that. It's got some decent buzz, not like amazing or anything, but it's like one of the few films that was supposed to have a theatrical release, kept its date, went VOD same day, but also is trying drive-ins, because at least here in Arizona, drive-ins never closed. Drive-ins, they weren't considered an essential service or anything, but because the no-touch policy of them, they stayed open throughout. And so,
That's neat.
yeah, that's one that I VOD'd it. I still haven't watched it yet, but yeah, it's one that I was curious about. So yeah, there you go.
Chauncey?
Well, I was gonna watch Extraction. That's kind of what I do actually want to see it. It's I like action movies occasionally. Yeah, that's mainly the other one. I've been watching a lot of documentaries. That's kind of what I've been looking at, a lot of documentaries lately. There's another one that's coming out soon that deals with the media and their portrayal of stories, which I think is going to be really relevant. So yeah, that's coming on Netflix soon. So, and Hollywood, for people who haven't watched yet, the Ryan Murphy series it's actually really good. It's kind of, if you've seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which is also a fave movie of mine, it kind of has that what if scenario kind of vibe to it, which has been coming more and more of a kind of a thing that some storytellers are doing, where they go back in history but kind of do what they want with it, the way they would have wanted things to be. And Hollywood does that. It's about 7 episodes, and it's if you love classic look of Hollywood with a little bit of the Ryan Murphy kind of spin of things. This is more Glee than an American Horror Story in that sense. More Glee and Nip Tuck than American Horror Story, but it's still very good. So.
Yeah, I'm always curious about the alternate timeline thing, and I've read some real positive things about it. So I'll have to at least give it an episode or two, just test run, so to speak, which is what I do with TV, because it requires so much more dedication than just sitting and watching a movie, because it's one and done sort of situation. Right. So,
what's it called? Just Hollywood?
Hollywood, yeah, it's called Hollywood.
I'll add that to the list.
Yeah, I have a spoiler-free review if anybody wants to check it out on Rotten Tomatoes.
Ooh,
nice. I'm actually probably going to revisit Demolition Man, because they just announced they're making a sequel, and it's on Hulu now, and I do not remember Demolition Man very well at all. It's been a long time since I've watched it.
That was the one with Wesley Snipes in it, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Taco Bell is the only restaurant left.
After the food wars or whatever, the brand wars, whatever the hell it is.
The franchise wars. That's what it was.
That's what it was. Yeah. God, that's a dark future to look forward to, man. Oh my God.
Taco Bell's pretty good.
It's got
Taco Bell's
I can hang with Taco Bell.
Because that's the one where they put on the helmet to have sex,
yes.
right?
And nonchalantly have sex, and he's just like, what? And he starts taking his clothes off.
Like,
She's all grossed out. Yeah. She's like, what are you doing?
But maybe that's our future too. I don't know.
I mean, if we all stay in quarantine for much longer, we might have to, right? Instead of texting people you up, you USPS them a sex helmet.
Oh, man.
Anyway.
That's weird. I'm going to reattempt the 24-hour movie marathon live stream, so there's that. I don't know when, but it'll be a while. I need to try to get my hands on the Gentleman, because I wanted to see that when it came out, and I'm trying to think if anything else is coming soon. I don't know, like it's just such a weird void we're in. Like this is so anti our show. There's like this would have been Black Widow week, but but no. So any last words, guys? Oh my God!
Silencio.
But then I had something, but then the moment you asked for it, my brain just went blank.
Last words about the state of the industry, or like what we're doing?
Not. We're only
So
taking
long,
1 week
farewell.
Watch more horror, I guess.
Yes.
Since we're still cranking out as much content as we can over on the horror show. We've done some remote reviews. I did go out and social distance with Cecil and do some filming, which was just odd, but nonetheless, you got to do what you got to do. So yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I have a review out on. I finally uploaded a review after 2 months of on Twisted Woman TKR of Killer Sofa. I'm sure other people have seen it already, but I finally watched it and I really enjoyed this movie. I actually really enjoyed it.
Wait, that's a thing?
Yeah, Killer
Sofa.
Sofa.
Yeah.
It's currently streaming on Amazon Prime too.
Okay.
You probably could get it on other, but I watched it for free on Amazon Prime, and I enjoyed this movie. It actually, it didn't play too hard on. I think it had the gimmick like Haunted Bong or whatever those other things, and one of my faves, Killer Tomatoes, but it didn't rely on so much of the gimmick of this isn't scary. It's just something that's like weird.
Inanimate
it
object.
actually is very. Inanimate object killer, but it's actually scary. Like they actually leaned in on the creep factor of this sofa. Not really a sofa, more like a reclining chair. But I am going to forgive it for that because that's just a cool title. And it just, I was genuinely creeped out by this
Felix
damn
is
chair.
screaming in the chat. It's not a sofa, it's a chair.
No, I know. I say it in my review. Check out my review. I say it. I explain that, but I forgive it because it really actually works. Like this movie was actually one of the better inanimate object killer movies I've seen in a while.
Yeah, there's Rubber, right? About the tire.
Everyone keeps telling me to watch Rubber, but then other people, it seems very polarizing. Some people absolutely love Rubber, and other people are like, no, this movie was just it had a good start, but then it just went to crap. So I don't know.
Deathbed is atrocious.
Deathbed, the bed that eats. Deathbed, the bed that eats. I love that movie.
Movie's terrible.
A rabbit hole and do reviews of inanimate
Oh,
objects.
please do it.
Movie. I think that's what I'm gonna do. But I do love them a lot. So.
Did you ever see what was it, Amityville 8 or something like that with the killer lamp?
You never went that far into those films, man.
I mean, it might not be 8. I just the one of the Amityville horror movies is about like a lamp that's possessed.
Yeah,
I think there's been like 10 or 12 of them.
I saw the Killer Donuts movie. I actually thought that was okay.
Killer Condom, that's a gross one. Ugh.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Full Moon, man. Full Moon has done some of the strangest inanimate object stuff that you could think of. They were the ones behind Killer Bong, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah.
And the oldest one is Christine, not oldest, but one of the best ones, of course, for art is like Christine, right? Like that was
for art.
It actually really was trying to be a serious movie about, and then it was an inanimate object, right? So. Since then, it's gone wacky, but I think Killer Sofa, I think they were onto something with this plot. So,
to be fair, the best killer inanimate object is from Goosebumps, the killer sponge. If anyone remembers that,
I do.
Oh yeah.
You can. I appreciate when a movie can take something that's usually made as a joke and actually make you take it seriously. I think that takes good maneuvering, and there's a lot of great practical effects in this movie too, like great puppetry. With there's some really good. It reminded me of the Pee Wee Playhouse. It like kind of ruined my childhood, but I was like, that Pee Wee Playhouse chair,
yes,
like that top, and I was like, this is reminding me too much of this, but it did so well. I was like, this works.
And now I'm suddenly thinking this. And now I'm suddenly thinking of the creepy scene in the Look Who's Talking sequel with like the talking toilet that was all like evil looking, and that scared me. That scared me as a kid, man.
All right.
I never got scared of a toilet, but that sounds amazing.
It was just reminded to me recently with this an article on Bloody Disgusting about scary moments in non-horror movies, and they reminded me of that. I was like, oh my god, I forgot about that.
Ben Grimm in the chat, Oculus. That's I like that one. A little bit different, but I like that one a lot too.
Yeah, Mike Flanagan, dude, love Mike Flanagan.
Oh yeah.
What's Oculus? What is that?
That's the one with the mirrors, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that all just mirrors that kill people?
I mean, I think there's a weird plot twist. I didn't watch it all, but yeah.
It's like an eldritch horror, slightly H.P. Lovecraft pseudo send up. Not really, but it kind of reminds me of that a little bit. But it's with Amir. It's very good.
Cool.
It stars Karen Gillan. It's very good.
I'm not a fan of hers. I'll say that much.
Yeah, she's great.
Sadly, she's not green, but blue. What color is she
Blue.
in?
It's blue in the
Really?
Avengers.
I'm sorry.
You get reminded of that in Jumanji. She's what's her face in Jumanji. I just recently watched Next Level or whatever it's called.
The first time I ever saw her was in Doctor Who. She was one of the companions in Doctor Who.
I need to get on that.
Right after that, she had like a crossover appeal. So
Guys, I'm stuck in quarantine. I'm finally out of excuses to not watch Doctor Who. Oh my god. Well, okay, that's going high on the list.
Alrighty.
There you go.
So watch watch a bunch of shit you've been waiting to watch, guys.
Yeah, you still have time. I know some states are trying to reopen a little bit. As of next week, they're going to try to reopen a few things here in Arizona. It's stuff that's not essential services. I'm not going to get into a diatribe about that.
Still 1,000 a day. Still 1,000.
Yeah. We're entering phase 2 here in California on Friday.
Yeah, so florists can open up again.
And bookstores. Bookstores will be
bookstores.
opening up.
Yeah,
Actually, I'm down for bookstores. People should be reading right now. I'm okay.
And I'm in New York, so maybe 2025, maybe.
Yeah. No, I feel you. My parents are in Jersey, so it's just checking in each day.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's depressing. We hope to see you in
Killer Sofa. Watch it.
Yeah.
All right. I'm glad we got to squeeze the show